Coming up on this episode of the Social Hour, Google Reader is shutting down. Why? Plus, Dropbox bought Mailbox. What? Pinterest is getting analytics and Netflix goes social. All that and a tablet for the ladies next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Audio bandwidth provided by the new Winamp for Android, featuring wireless sync and one-click iTunes import. Now with free daily music downloads and full-length CD listening parties. Download it for free at winamp.com/Android. Bandwidth for the Social Hour is brought to you by CacheFly at CacheFly.com.
This is The Social Hour with Sarah Lane and Amber MacArthur, episode 102, recorded Friday, March 15th, 2013. This episode of The Social Hour is brought to you by 99 Designs, the world's largest online graphic design marketplace. 99 Designs connects businesses seeking quality, affordable designs with a community of 200,000 graphic designers. Visit 99designs.com/social hour to receive a free design consultation. That's 99designs.com/social hour. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Social Hour, and happy Friday to everybody who's watching live from Petaluma World Twit headquarters. I'm Sarah Lane.
And I'm Amber MacArthur from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and we are waiting for spring here. It is not coming, but Sarah, I know you were just in Miami, and I was looking at all your pictures online, and I have to admit, I was a little bit jealous.
Yeah, Miami's a fun place, Amber, as you know, because you go down to Florida pretty regularly yourself. Amber and I were talking before the show. It's like, what is so great about, like, let's try to put our fingers on it. And there's something to do with, you know, the heat and the colors, and everything's vibrant, and people are dancing, and it's just, it's a fun time. Gotta say.
It is a fun time, yeah. And I'm glad you came back, because I wasn't sure, because I thought, wow, Sarah looks like she's having a really good time. She may end up just staying down there, which would have been okay with me, Sarah. We could have done the show from my place down there. Yeah. You don't even need to be at Twit.
Ooh. Well, I'm going to run this by Leo ASAP. I'm sure he won't mind. I'm just going to relocate to South Beach. It's going to be fine.
Yeah.
This show won't suffer. Yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, we're used to this, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, you don't have to be in the same room to be social. That is the single takeaway you can take out of the show if we teach you nothing else. So, Amber, we've had quite a week of news. I don't know what it is about mid-March, but it's like the news was flowing like, you know, a river of RSS feeds. Speaking of RSS feeds, Google is shutting down Google Reader. Now, some of you might say, well, what's so social about, you know, a private, you know, whatever you want to subscribe to in a reader, Google Reader or any other reader. But I don't know about you, Amber, but I use Google Reader constantly because many of the apps that I use pull in my feeds from Google Reader. So they're sort of, you know, app skins on top of Google Reader. And many of those apps, I'm talking mostly iPad apps, are stories that I end up sharing out, you know, to my friends via social networks.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are really disappointed. You know, I haven't used Google Reader for a really long time. It just hasn't necessarily been on my radar, but it was so interesting when the news broke, because I know in particular on Twitter, it seemed like every 3 or 4 tweets that I was reading, someone was upset about losing Google Reader. Some people maybe didn't care that much, but obviously I'm following a lot of people interested in technology, because it was filled with people saying RIP Google Reader. I don't know. I mean, I think it does, it definitely makes some sense for Google to go this direction. And I know it's hard for people who are so used to using it, but I kind of get where they stand.
So what do you think? We've got all of these companies, some of them who depend on Google Reader. Zeit, for example, they posted on their blog last night. Zeit is it's sort of a combination of news feeds and what socially stories you might like, you know, based on your social graph and based on, you know, what you tell Zeit you like and don't like. They posted, Google Reader is dead, so we rebuilt it for you in Zeit in 6 hours. And it's a great little post. It sort of explains how the folks at Zeit say, here's what you can do so that obviously you keep using Zeit, but that you can keep all of, you know, how you've built your own personal Google Reader intact and keep using our service. And then they go on to explain that Google Reader is a great part of Zeit because you have the option of adding your your Google Reader account and then Zeit's personalization algorithm, which sources you prefer and what stories you like to read. So Zeit's like, we want this. We think that this is an important component of our business. But other companies and services, Feedly, Flipboard, Leo and I were talking about this on iPad Today this week. What's the other one that I'm thinking? Reader. These are all services that rely heavily on Google Reader, and it's time for them to, pivot quickly so that people who love their services don't end up not having a service that works.
Yeah, I mean, I guess based on the announcement on their blog that people do have a few months. So they've announced that the actual date is July 1st, 2013. So there is some time for people to figure out what to do. I think really the more interesting conversation, because I think at the end of the day, you know what, we can live without Reader. There will be other options out there. But I'm really curious from Google's standpoint, they're focusing on fewer products. And I'm curious to see if they will retire other products and what might make sense for them, what they're focusing more on. Hopefully Google Plus continues to exist, but obviously they've had issues with other social networks they've tried to start. But I think in some ways that's the more interesting conversation.
I think so too. I think it's pretty clear that Google wants to go all in on Google Plus, shutting down Google Reader and saying, well, this just isn't a service that the majority of our users wanted or were using. And I believe them. I think there are a lot of people, especially, Amber, I think you and I follow a disproportionate amount of people in media and tech. And those are the sorts of people who are Google Reader power users, right? Because part of our jobs is to read more articles than the average person so that, we feel like we know what's going on and we can talk about it. But to sort of take what I'm reading and sharing and what's important to me over to Google Plus from Google Reader, to me, is not a seamless process. It's two totally different things. What I'm reading or not reading in any news reader, I happen to use Google Reader, but any news reader, they all, work the same way for me, is not necessarily anything, I can selectively share an article here or there, but my activity is a personal thing, not a social thing. So
yeah.
I wonder what Google's doing too.
Yeah, no, I'm totally curious about this. And, another interesting headline that just took place is news that Dropbox has bought Mailbox, the app that no one can get. Although I'll have to say a friend of mine did email me using Mailbox recently. Last time I looked, I think I was maybe 500,000 in as far as the waiting list to use Mailbox. The good news for some of us on the waiting list is hopefully with this Dropbox deal, they'll be able to speed things up just a little bit. And the list for waiting around for what some say kind of revolutionizes the email experience. The wait will be less long.
Yeah, so I've been using Mailbox actually because I have a friend who's their lead designer, and she's really great. So, but anyway, so I've been lucky enough to be able to be using Mailbox for a while, and it is a wonderful app. It's iOS only. It only can use a Gmail account. It can use multiple Gmail accounts, but it has to be something that's within Gmail. So for a lot of people, that's already very limiting. But it is a great app. Absolute beautiful design, works really well. It's designed to help you attain and maintain inbox zero, sort of forcing you to say every single email that you get, you take action on. So you either delete it, you archive it, or you set some sort of a reminder for yourself, like I'm going to revisit this in 3 days, or this weekend, or whatever, in a month. And the idea is to just clear out everything. It's kind of good for peace of mind. So if you don't know about Mailbox and you're not already on the waiting list, then that's the deal. What's great about this, Amber, is that Mailbox is all about sort of design and functionality. Dropbox is, well, they want to be better looking. They clearly are starting to put a lot of effort into the design of Dropbox. But historically, Dropbox was not known as anything that was very nice to look at. It was just a place to have files, in the cloud. And I think that by acquiring a service that is extremely popular for people sending and receiving emails in kind of new and interesting ways, this really opens up the playing field for Dropbox. I mean, what are they going for here? This is clearly not just about cloud storage.
Yeah, obviously they're looking to expand their service offering. Interesting to see that the 13 employees of Mailbox will be going over to join the Dropbox team. And I think at the end of the day, they just saw a winning app. Maybe they also noticed that perhaps the people at Mailbox needed a little bit of help, a little support, just based on the huge demand. I mean, the bottom of this article from the Wall Street Journal, it says that Mailbox is now delivering 60 million messages a day and has taken 1.3 million reservations, and they have been struggling to keep up with all of that. So I think this move makes sense. I see these two as being great partners together, and I think that it will just really enhance both services, which obviously have a great reputation out there.
I kind of, I think this is possibly a little bit far-fetched, but it's like Dropbox OS one day, you got email, obviously right now Mailbox is piggybacking off of Gmail, but maybe that's not always the case. That's something that I'm sure Dropbox was thinking about. So you've got storage and you've got people using email, and what is it all? So it's kind of like, I don't know, it's almost like a Chrome competitor at this point, or down the road sometime. But you're right, Amber. I mean, think about, you're on a waiting list for an app you can't even get yet. There are a lot of people like you, and they have had server issues big time, just with the limited amount of people who are actually using the app regularly. So that's something that Dropbox can help them with for sure.
Yeah. So another story, which I think is really interesting, especially for the social media marketers, particularly those people who perhaps work in retail, might be interested in this story. Introducing Pinterest Web Analytics. So the idea that you can more easily track who's clicking on your products as far as who's saved them on their Pinterest boards, and being able to get an official account, so you have some analytics around how much people like your content. I mentioned the retail space because it just makes a sense. I think it's a perfect fit to use a tool like this, and it gives people an opportunity, again, to see how people are interacting and pinning their products out there.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me too. Good old Pinterest, Amber. Here we are, not using it day after day, and but it's like, Pinterest analytics just makes perfect sense. You want, especially if there are certain select things that people are getting off of a page on your website. Those are analytics you want to know about. It's maybe not being shared in other traditional ways via a URL or that sort of thing. But if it ends up on a Pinterest page, and you want to track that, it also looks really nice. I haven't started using it because I don't have a verified website on Pinterest, and there's some steps that Pinterest will tell you about it in this blog post to get going. But it looks nice. I think that analytics tools, there are so many of them, and for Pinterest to have something that's internal is a great fit for them.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of neat based on the blog post they put on Pinterest that they put up an example. Although I mentioned big retailers, it could be definitely applicable to people who run maybe smaller blogs. And they use an example of a travel blogger that people would be able to see if people are posting photos from maybe a ski vacation or a hotel they've stayed at. So there are opportunities for smaller publishers also to get involved and find value in this information. Just a little tease for later on in the show, we're going to talk about a neat little add-on that allows you to do some fun stuff around shopping with kind of a Pinterest tie-in.
Cool. Hey, so Amber, have you ever thought to yourself, boy, I sure wish I could share more about the kind of movies that I'm watching on Netflix with my Facebook friends?
You know what? I have not thought about that, Sarah.
Well,
but I have to say, I love Netflix, so I wouldn't be opposed to that.
Well, I'm glad that you're not, like holding your breath, because this is actually only for U.S. users. Although the only reason that this is a U.S. user story is because in the U.S. there were some, I don't know, I guess you could call them outdated laws that prevented Netflix users from sharing viewing history with each other on Facebook because it was like a privacy thing. Anyway, starting a couple days ago, March 13th, so yeah, on Wednesday, Netflix members in the US can now share favorite shows and movies on Netflix with our friends by connecting to Facebook and then saying, yes, I am ready to share. By default, you don't have to worry about, oh my God, I'm going to start spamming everybody. It's only going to happen on Netflix. You'll see what titles that your friends have watched. There's a new watched by your friends section, what they've rated 4 or 5 stars type thing. You'll see that in your friends' favorites area. And then your friends can see, see what you like and watch as well. And then if you want to share to Facebook, you can do that. There's only so much, Amber, that I think anyone cares about as far as activity on Facebook from me, or, I don't know necessarily that because you say that you use Netflix quite a bit, Amber, for like children's programming, right? So if your son is watching a bunch of stuff and that's getting pushed to your Facebook feed, it's not necessarily anything that's like a topic of conversation. I mean, I could like it, but what does that really do? However, I think within Netflix itself, I definitely will get something out of a good friend of mine who I know has great taste in movies, giving a movie a really high rating that I haven't seen yet.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good point, especially around the kids' content. So I always find it funny when people talk about Netflix, although there are great series there, there's also amazing kids' content. But I can't really see necessarily posting something like my son has watched 100 episodes of Power Rangers, which is likely the case. Maybe not all that applicable, but I just watched House of Cards not that long ago. A great series, and I know it was recommended by a couple of friends of mine. So I could see in some ways just relying on those recommendations. I may not engage all that much, but I think I would watch what some of my friends watch because I do trust their opinion on certain things, and probably not everyone. Like I don't know about you, Sarah. I probably have maybe less than 5 people where I think, hey, this could be a good show if they've really liked it, because I know we like the same type of content.
Yeah, absolutely.
A small group, basically.
And that's the thing about Facebook is, I looked the other day and I have 700 and something Facebook friends. Those aren't all people that, I will never see a movie or know about the movie choices of the majority of all of those people, even though they're all quite lovely. So there's, there's limited uses, I think. But Netflix and Facebook, hey, there are a lot of Facebook apps, that are going to work the way that Netflix works as an app on Facebook that have experienced, rapid user growth because of the sharing on Facebook functionality. So, I'm a Netflix fan. I hope that works for them as well.
This is an interesting headline about LinkedIn to buy Pulse newsreader for more than $50 million. This is on All Things D. They say the price could be anywhere between $50 million and $100 million. Kind of an interesting deal in some ways. I think LinkedIn in the past has been very aggressive with acquiring services out there that they know are a great fit for their platform. Just sometimes I have a hard time wrapping my head around these numbers, Sarah. I'm not going to lie.
Well,
it just seems like so much money, but it is LinkedIn after all.
Yeah, and it's funny. We're talking earlier in the show about Google Reader shutting down, and a lot of these news readers, that are apps having to figure out, okay, well, how do we pivot so that this doesn't basically melt us? So, Pulse is kind of in that arena. It's one of the newsreaders I've definitely reviewed on other shows. LinkedIn buying a newsreader app, I'm sort of like, okay, well, how would that change then? Because Pulse also works where it gets smarter based on the stories that you tell it that you would like to see and also what you like and don't like. So you figure, all right, well, LinkedIn is kind of doubling down on its, enterprise and business aspect of it. So how would Pulse change if LinkedIn bought it? Because you figure that LinkedIn would want to push information from your contacts on LinkedIn to be part of the algorithm for the stories that you see on Pulse. Okay, but how would that look? I don't know. I'm not quite sure why this is a match made in heaven. By the way, this is a story from earlier this week, and it came from All Things D, and LinkedIn had declined a request to comment. So this is something that the story is still unfolding. Although LinkedIn also acquired CardMunch, which is now a LinkedIn property. We've talked about that on the show, Amber, which is, it works in a, hey, this is how, a really neat way to scan a contact or a business card. And it works with LinkedIn really nicely. SlideShare, Reportive. So often LinkedIn seems to be acquiring properties that work in a business sense without totally rebranding them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think also in All Things D, there is another article kind of in connection with this that talks about what LinkedIn could potentially do with Pulse. And the article really hints around this idea of advertising on the platform using other people's content. So it seems like that could be a direction that they want to go in terms of being able to populate feeds with other people's content and selling ads around it. And Pulse could somehow help them get there. So we'll see what happens with that one. I'm sure it's not the last we're going to hear about that story.
Yeah. All right, so to round out our news, our social news for the week, there's a story that came out of South by Southwest. South by Southwest Interactive was happening this week. It started last Friday, and I believe the closing party was Tuesday night, so it's kind of a nice long weekend. VEVO announced that it plans to introduce VEVO TV, which it says is a fully programmed, linear, 24/7 lean-back experience. That's coming from CEO Rio Karef, talking to Fast Company. And he says it'll be more TV-like than the traditional VEVO experience. All right, so Amber, when I think of VEVO, I think of music videos, and that's okay. Then I think of music videos and TV, and I think of something like the old days of MTV. Is this something that appeals to you?
You know, it kind of does. I mean, you mentioned the old days of MTV. Also in Canada, we have a network called Much Music, and they used to play a lot of videos, and I loved watching the latest and greatest music videos. And now I find it kind of interesting that none of these music networks really have a lot of videos. They've gone more towards a reality TV direction. And I have to say, I use VEVO on a regular basis, and I love it. You know, it's such a slick platform to be able to discover new music, to watch those videos. And I think this is kind of a neat idea. I mean, if you look at the success of some of the early music channels that were out there, but we've kind of lost that and we've gone off in different directions. I still think there is a demand for something like this. So not a lot of details in terms of how it works, but based on this Fast Company article, they do show that they have some interest from big time advertisers locking in names like McDonald's, State Farm, and looking like, you know, this is going to go forward. And maybe this is the kind of the future MTV. If you missed those music videos, you now have an opportunity to get back to that point and watch them.
Yeah, that's right. And for VEVO to kind of pull away from YouTube a bit, because a lot of people only see anything VEVO, although VEVO has actually got a great iPad app that I use quite often. But most people, you know, they type in a song and they want to see the music video, and it just happens to be the VEVO account on YouTube, and they don't really care. Supposedly VEVO's new channel is going to have 24-hour not only original programming, but live concerts and TV shows. So it doesn't sound like it's going to be back-to-back music videos, but maybe that's simply not a model that anyone thinks will work anymore. But it will have apps on iOS, Android, Windows Phone, Xbox, Roku, also on VEVO's website. So it's going to be interesting what VEVO ends up building here, and yet what types of programming we should expect to see along with the music videos that frankly don't really live outside of the internet these days.
Anywhere.
I don't know how to see my favorite Taylor Swift song in video form. I search for it on YouTube.
And every time you do, you get like an annoying, 15-year-old kid who's lip syncing it. So I like the idea that VEVO, at least you can get the official music videos. And I could see them surrounding it with a bunch of interesting content too. So I think it makes perfect sense. And like you said, the connection with Google and YouTube could be a popular channel for them.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Good stuff. Hey, a quick reminder that we record the Social Hour live on Fridays at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. It's really fun. There was somebody in chat who joined us before the show and was like, "This is really fun. I never watch on Fridays, and it's fun to watch kind of sort of the live pre-show aspect of it. But if you can't watch us live on Fridays, that is fine too. All of you know, hopefully you know, that you can just go to twit.tv/TSH. And that's where you can watch all of our content. It's on demand, so it lives on our website. We've got embedded videos right there. You can subscribe to the show. Who says RSS is dead anyway? That's how, podcasting basically was built, right? Look at Amber from last week. She looks so good. You look great.
Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah, so everything is there. And when we talk about certain stories on the show, we try to add all of the links on each episode page as well, so that if you're a little behind or you go like, I'd like to follow up on what Sarah talked about or what Amber said, and we referenced a story, that's all there too. So hopefully we make it as easy as possible for you to watch or listen to the show whenever your heart desires. And thanks to everybody who joins us each week. Hey, Amber, we've got a new sponsor this week. Speaking of this week, yeah, I know, it's pretty cool. This is 99 Designs. And when I heard that they were sponsoring the Social Hour, I was so excited because 99 Designs is the coolest service. In fact, Twit used 99 Designs recently to help design. We're going to sell a bunch of T-shirts, and we wanted kind of some like cool logos and graphics. And 99 Designs put together something that we were really happy with. Yeah, look at all that good stuff. This is what they do best. You know, the idea is that 99 Designs connects you and me and everybody else with graphic designers who are really, really talented. They'll create stuff that's, you know, in a snappy way, that's affordable. I don't know if you've ever sort of sought to make a fancy graphic for your website, let's say, or really anything, and sometimes people will give you a quote and you're like, oh gosh, I had no idea. What you do is you tell 99 Designs what you need, and then they pass that along to dozens of designers, and they'll submit designs that they've created based on what you've said that you wanted. Then you give the designers your feedback to help them kind of refine their designs. And then you select the one you like the best, and that's the one that you pay for. So it's kind of like you've got all these people saying, hey, I'm good, let me vie for your affection here. And then you pay for your favorite. So 99 Designs provides more than 210,000 graphics designers around the world. So they're all over the place that are available to work on your project. You got customer service 24/7 over the phone, via email and chat. If you're on a deadline, if you've got an issue, they are there. And then you have design consultations with the San Francisco design team for all your branding needs. That's complimentary too. And there's a 100% money back guarantee. So if things don't work out for you, you don't have to worry like, oh God, now I'm gonna have to pay for this design that I really hate. This is about making you happy. So that's what 99 Designs does, and that's why we really like them so much. Categories include logo design, web design, digital marketing collateral like a landing page, or what about a nice Facebook cover design, or banner ads. You can go nuts. How about flyers or menus or labels or greeting cards? You get the idea. And of course, in the case of Twit, some T-shirts, hoodies, and more, plus mobile app design as well. You know, if you've got the greatest idea for an app, but you really need somebody who knows something about design, that is how 99 Designs can help you. You can start right now for as low as $199 for your own custom graphic design. And if you go to 99designs.com/social hour, because we always like to give you a little extra perk, get a $99 power pack of services for free. You might say, what's a power pack? Gives you more designer time and attention. 99 Designs is bold. It'll highlight and feature your design project in their marketplace, and you'll get almost twice as many designs. You can also call 800-513-1678. That's just for Twit listeners. I'm going to give you that number again. 800-513-1678. 800-513-1678. Just want to make sure you got it. If you have any questions, 99designs.com/social hour. And thanks so much to them for supporting our humble show. All right, Amber, got a social tip from you. Hover it without the E, HOVR.IT. What is this?
Yeah, you're bang on. It's called Hover It. Now, this is very new. So I would say before you use it, just letting you know that, it's not going to work out perfectly just yet. I had a chance to meet the team that created this, a bunch of very young team from Toronto. And it's a really neat idea. So basically what it is an extension. I'm using it right now in Chrome. If you use Pinterest all the time and you want to be able to buy different things that you're seeing on Pinterest, particularly around clothing, that's where it works best right now. What Hover It does after you install it is it allows you to hover over that particular image, and then you'll see a tiny little circular icon at the bottom right. When you click on that icon to the far right of the page, what you'll see is a column that has that item or similar items to that item that you're able to buy right there. So it's using image search and recognition in the background to find that particular item on the web, so you have that shopping experience directly from Pinterest. Now, I have to mention it is kind of early days for these guys, so you may search for a dress and you may not find that exact dress, but it will pull up dresses that are similar and then enhance the whole shopping experience. I'm sure you can imagine in the long run how interesting this could be for different retailers out there, in the sense that it is a better way in some sense to be able to shop from the Pinterest, different Pinterest boards that people find and post online. So just a fun little tip if you want a shopping experience and you use social networks like Pinterest out there and you want to try something new.
Absolutely. And frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if Pinterest was either interested in acquiring something like like Hover or building their own eventually, because I mean, make it as convenient as possible. We've talked about this before. I mean, there are quite a few click-throughs where people end up buying something that they find on Pinterest. It's not, it's not just for perusing. A lot of the stuff is like, I want it now. So if you can make that, if you can make less clicking and more hovering, that's technically less work. And so that probably ends up being, in the long run, a lot more sales.
Yeah, definitely. And over the long term, I was talking to one of the founders and asking him what their plans were to be able to monetize the service. And he had mentioned that at the top right-hand side of that column where you see the listing of similar items or that exact item where you can buy it, obviously it'll be an opportunity for different e-commerce sites to be able to get their result pushed up to the top of that list. So just an interesting way, I think, to solve one of the problems we've seen with Pinterest and other sites is that, Sarah, let's say you go out and, you're in a picture, you're wearing some cool outfit, someone wants to be able to buy that outfit. Well, eventually with something like Hover It, you can imagine the opportunity to do that because of the image search. So I think a fun idea and really expands the whole e-commerce offering.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's great. So Hover,
the fun one.
HOVR.IT, and if anyone wants to give it a spin and let us know what they think of it or, any issues, do let us know. The Social Hour at twit.tv. Hey, Amber, what is our spotlight for the week? And does it have anything to do with my favorite cereal, Lucky Charms? Just kidding. It's not my favorite cereal. Too much marshmallow.
It sure does, Sarah, but it is St. Patty's Day. I don't know if you go out for St. Patty's Day. Do you?
Do I go out?
Yeah.
I consider I'm an Irish lass. And so I love the idea of celebrating anything Irish. However, March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, is always amateur hour. At least... I've never found a sort of refined, let's celebrate the best of Irish culture on St. Patrick's Day. But yes, I drink green beer with the best of them and I suck it up.
Good for you, Sarah. At least you're taking one for the team.
Yeah.
Well, this is kind of a fun campaign that Lucky Charms is doing. What's interesting about this is it's based on the popularity or success of auto-tuning, which we've seen online for the past few years. And I think it really brings about the question that is the future of marketing based on internet trends? Because in this case, what happened with Lucky Charms is they asked someone to auto-tune a bunch of their old animated commercials and videos they had created. And what we have here is just a really fun YouTube video to promote the brand.
This is great.
Always catch me. What if I had a new great green clover? Blend right in. Oh, lucky, we're getting closer. Always catch me. We gotta find Lucky.
Well, what's interesting about this, Amber, is, and this is happening more and more, is that you've got a big event, like, the Super Bowl. I always use that as the biggest event of the year because that's, where all the traditional commercials, the most expensive commercials end up living. But then, so yes, there's still a lot of emphasis on that, right? It's, you want to see somebody, you want as many people as possible to see this commercial and to remember the song, to go buy your product, that kind of thing. But so much of what everyone's talking about ends up being these memes, this viral stuff. During the Super Bowl this year, Oreos, of all companies, sent out one clever tweet because the lights went out in the stadium where the football game was being played. And now everyone's like, oh, Oreos is the darling of, internet marketing. And it's actually something that brands can capitalize on. I was mentioning South by Southwest. I mean, you see a lot of brands there that are, they're trying to tap into, what are the kids talking about? What's cool? How is our marketing going to be cooler? And something like this just shows that there's somebody over at Lucky Charms who's like, people will think this is clever, rather than stupid. Well,
yeah, I think that's a neat thing about it.
But
I mean, it's fun. You just want to listen to it. It's fun. I think for a lot of people, it's childhood memories. I'm not a big fan of all of these sugary cereals, but at the end of the day, did I watch the video? Yes, I did. Did I find it amusing? Yes, I did. Did it make me think about Lucky Charms again? Yes. So I think, in that way, it kind of accomplishes all those things that they want to do. So I do wonder, though, like I said, I think for the future of marketing, I think sometimes it's not necessarily going to be about the marketing people who are sitting in a room and trying to come up with a great idea. There's so much they can draw on from the internet. And this is just one example, and we've seen this happen time and time again. So in many ways, for you social media marketers out there who are listening to the show, I think it's so important to pay attention to internet culture and things that are spreading, because there could be some great opportunities. Of course, you don't want to kill an opportunity. You know, if another brand goes and does this, they're going to look like a copycat. So you always have to try to be original.
Very true.
That's my advice.
But this is great news for all of you people who are like, oh, you know, how do I keep up? It's like, just read BuzzFeed, read more Tumblr.
Sure.
You know, it's like, have a little bit more fun.
Watch the social hour, Sarah.
Watch the social hour, exactly. And your job actually is very pleasant and amusing. And then you can create your marketing memes out of what's cool, you know, for the day type of a thing. I think, Amber, we're just going to see a lot more of this stuff. And for better or for worse, you know, when I saw Psy of Gangnam Style in a commercial for pistachios recently, I was like, oh God, well that's over. So it doesn't always work. You know, it's kind of like the sentiment. It's a case-by-case basis, right?
Yeah, and I think the shelf life is pretty short for some of these campaigns. I mean, that's the thing. And I think Oreo kind of showed us that during the Super Bowl is, you know, many times you got to be really quick on your feet. You got to come in with an idea and then you got to get out quickly. So I think with Lucky Charms, you know, maybe they got a week out of this. They were smart with the timing around St. Patrick's Day. And that's kind of the future about marketing. It isn't necessarily these 6-month campaigns that run on television, but instead these kind of little ideas that they plant across the web. So very exciting time to keep an eye on all of this.
Absolutely. Hey, let's get into some of our viewer feedback this week. Thanks to everybody who wrote in and called and tweeted and gave us great ideas. Got an email from Mike Tabbert. Hello, Mike, from the Woodlands, Texas, and had an article that he said, I ran across this and I thought it was a great example of why people need to double check what account they're tweeting from. He sent us over to a story on Mac Rumors, and this is, I gotta laugh, because Apple, the company Apple, is sort of famous for not wanting a lot of smut in their app store. You know, they'll deny apps that, you know, are deemed obscene and in general has a little bit of a puritanical type of a thing going on. Always has, and that's why a lot of people prefer Android, frankly, because they don't really like Apple telling them, you know, what's moral and what isn't. The Apple iBookstore Twitter account. So Apple has a variety of Twitter accounts. The iBookstore Twitter account has 214,000 followers and some change. Accidentally retweeted a message last night. And what's great about this actually is I know the person who sent the original message. Anyway, it doesn't matter who it is, but it was something obscene, right? And it was retweeted by iBookstore because I believe the people in question used to work over at iTunes in the iBookstore arena. So this is a classic case of whoops, I forgot what account I was sending from. You know, they're maybe in Hootsuite or TweetDeck or something like that. I don't know, Amber, because it's Apple, I have to snicker a little bit more than usual, but dime a dozen these days. You gotta look and make sure you know what account you're logged into before you retweet things that are going to upset people.
I totally agree with you. And I think, you know, we've gotten into an area right now where a lot of people feel very comfortable using Hootsuite for managing multiple accounts. And what I would say is, you know what, it's okay to do that. But I would also argue that maybe you shouldn't be tweeting anything like this on your personal account, because it's not as though it's going to increase your reputation. So if you made a mistake and tweeted on the corporate account, that's really bad. But on the other hand, we also have to be careful what we tweet on our own personal accounts or retweet too. So again, a lesson, and this is happening all the time, I think, with individuals, that they are going out and sharing or retweeting things that are just kind of inappropriate and don't make them necessarily look good. So these mistakes continue to happen, Sarah. I don't know how we end them, but it is humorous for the rest of us.
Yeah, it definitely is. You know, every once in a while, and it's usually around sporting events because I tend to lose my mind a little bit. My Twitter account goes a little off the rails. I have been known to drop an F-bomb here and there. And I think for the most part, people kind of go like, okay, I see what's going on. But I definitely get a fair amount of really confused people who will tweet at me and be like, did your account get hacked? Or is this you? I don't get that. This is very off-brand, I guess. You know, I hate that term. But for me, I think it comes across that way. And that's something that, you know, I'm an individual, so it's kind of just, it's up to me, right? But especially if you're representing a brand in any shape or form, that stuff really does matter, Amber. And it's always times like that where I kind of go, I could see where that tweet would have seemed a little offensive, even though I sent it, because, I don't know, somebody won the World Series and I was really excited about it. But yeah, it's just something for all of us to keep in mind, because this stuff doesn't go away. And even if you delete it, it could get screenshotted and it, it never really dies.
It never does. And you know what? It's so easy to offend people in the Twitter space, right? I mean, it happens all the time. Like, people get so offended and they lash out at you, and it just, it never ends. So it's never a good practice. I always sort of keep in mind that, hey, would I want my mom or dad to see me tweeting this? And if the answer is no, then I tend to keep it out of that space. But, like anyone, I've made mistakes and tried to delete it as quickly as possible, but it doesn't always work. Now, Sarah, this is kind of cool. We got this from @Tech&Tools, said, I came across this mobile personality profile that may be interesting for the show. It's put together by McCann Marketing. A fun little tool that looks at your mobile personality, says that it's best viewed on a mobile device. Makes sense. A bunch of different questions that you have to go through, and then it determines your mobile personality. I haven't had a chance to do it. I'm trying to do it quickly, Sarah. Did you do it?
I did, yeah. So Jason's actually going through his as well. It basically asks you a bunch of questions on what kind of a mobile user you are. Are you the sort of person who's just like, yeah, come at me with the messages, or gosh, I don't like getting pinged from so many sources at once. I can't keep up. How do you choose a mobile phone plan? Is the device really important? Or you kind of just say like, nah, I want latest and greatest type of a thing. I don't even necessarily care what's best. One of the questions is, how do you like to communicate? Do you like SMS? Do you like text and email? Or are you more of a voice and video kind of a person? Now, I have a really strong preference about that. I'm like, no voice and never video. That's pretty much how I want to communicate with my friends, because I don't know. It's like we'll text back and forth, and then hopefully I'll see them in person sooner than later. But the idea is just to kind of figure out what kind of a mobile user you are. I ended up being some sort of an alpha mobile user, Amber, which basically I was categorized as someone who uses my mobile phone heavily for work. I've always got it on the table at a restaurant, and I'm not above using it as my main source of communication, and that's pretty true. Pretty true. It was an interesting. I always like these little quizzes, right? Because you usually learn a little about yourself and your own habits. But I know that I'm a heavy mobile user, and Amber, I know that you are too. But it's nice to be reminded that some people don't like to use their mobile phones the way that I do. One of the questions was, do you think it's acceptable to have your mobile phone out on the table when you're at a restaurant, or are you the sort of person who's like, that's rude, put it away? I mean, I've definitely been at dinners where I look around and go, I'm the only one, I'll put it away. I don't want to be the weirdo. But it's like once I see one other phone, it's on. And I've also heard that once we're waiting for dessert, then it's okay to use the mobile phone. There's like all sorts of different kinds of rules. But I'm sort of like, during dinner, totally fine the entire time. I've even done this, across from my own boyfriend, where we basically didn't talk to each other and just kind of went, did you see this? yeah. And we both thought it was perfectly normal, although I'm sure not everyone agrees with that. But also, there was a question, Amber, about do you feel that it's rude for a cell phone ringtone to be on in a public place? And I thought, oh gosh. I mean, I feel like if I am expecting a call and I don't think I'm going to feel it vibrate, maybe it's in my, I don't know, my purse or something, well, yeah, it has to be on. But a lot of people might say, no, I think that's super rude. So, I don't know, it's just, I learned a little about myself.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I, like you, try to kind of follow the lead of the person that I'm with. If I'm out having lunch with Chris, I'm okay putting the phone there. He's not going to be necessarily offended if I do that, but I follow the lead of whoever else is around. So I'm okay with it, especially if the other person obviously is comfortable with it. But you can kind of tell very quickly if the other person isn't. And then that's when you kind of tuck your phone into your purse. At least that's what I...
Yeah, I'm with you there. I definitely think it's, it's okay to pull back. It's okay to pull back from the incessant mobile usage. I'm just glad that I have an unlimited plan. Let's just put it that way.
Me too.
So Amber, we've got our meme of the week, and you had wondered before the show started, like, is this sort of over? Because this was South by Southwest news, but hey, South by Southwest was just getting going when we last recorded our show. So I think anything that happened within the last week is fair game.
Okay, that's good to know, because I know I saw your tweet about this, and I thought it was very interesting, as far as I can tell from everything that was online. Grumpy Cat, who has been made into an internet meme many times over. I've seen lots of Grumpy Cat photos. Looks like they brought Grumpy Cat to South by Southwest so people could get pictures taken with Grumpy Cat. So Sarah, what do you think? You're the cat person on the show.
Yes, I should. Thank you. I love that. I want to be the cat person of all shows for the rest of my life. Yeah, if you search for Grumpy Cat South by Southwest in Google, the first result is how Grumpy Cat is the unlikely star of South by Southwest. That's from CNN. So this is not just some obscure blog, right? This is big news. I was furious, Amber. I was down in Florida, but I was watching some South by Southwest news, and I was furious to see that Tartar Sauce, that's Grumpy Cat's official name, had been taken to Austin, Texas, to be at the Mashable stage, to sit sort of in a little Grumpy Cat bed and have her picture taken with a variety of people. And not just that, but people standing around, taking photos. The thing is that Grumpy Cat has, she's got some sort of a recessive feline dwarfism type of a thing. And I don't think she walks very well. So to me, I'm like, oh, okay, this is a cat that possibly can't run away as fast or might not be able to voice her displeasure. But I know my cats. And cats don't like things like that. I mean, it's never happened. So that bothers me, Amber. I feel like this is a meme that needs to stay on the internet. Put Tartar Sauce back in her carrier, take her home, let her frolic in her yard, and I will continue to look at Tumblr pictures of her. But don't take her to a stupid geek conference, where people are drunk and acting like morons, and think that that's okay.
Yeah,
right, you know
what? Although I do not have a cat at home, Sarah, I tend to agree with you. I think it's just, in many ways you're exploiting the cat. And, people may say, oh, well, the cat liked it. Well, we don't really know. And it doesn't seem like it's the best environment for anyone. So not a big fan of that. But in general, I'm not even a big fan of anyone bringing pets out on display. I don't even like zoos, Sarah. So I think in this case, it was a little much. It just seemed... I don't know. It just sort of took South by Southwest down a notch in my books, because I thought, really, is this what we've come to? We talk about the internet as an amazing platform to really change the world, and this is our focus. Like, I don't know. I've lost all hope.
Exactly. And, I think there was a little bit of me that, because I didn't go to South by Southwest Interactive for the first time this year in many years. It was, I had gone like 6 years in a row, and I felt like, I think I want to do something else. But I had a little bit of FOMO, which is fear of missing out, for all of you who don't know that term. And I thought, my friends are going to be down there. And when I saw this story, I was like, you know what? Screw you, South by Southwest. That's just, that cannot be what we're evolving into in an interactive festival where people are supposed to be connecting and being creative and sharing ideas. It's like, leave the poor cat alone. Tartar, I'm on your side. Poor little Tard.
Poor cat. Poor cat.
I know. All right. Well, on a happier note, thank you for all of your feedback this week. We do love hearing from you, and we try to incorporate all of your questions and comments and great ideas into our show each week. So you've got a few ways you can get a hold of us. You can write us at thesocialhour@twit.tv. You can leave us a voicemail, 2626-SOCIAL. If you just type that out on your phone, 2626-SOCIAL. We will try to play a voicemail. Try to keep it to 30 seconds or less. Or if you can also keep a video to 30 seconds or less, upload it somewhere like YouTube or Vimeo or wherever, and send us a link. We'll try to play it in a future episode. We've had people give us little reviews of social services, or ask us questions, or just kind of give us feedback on the show in general. So anything is appreciated, and thanks in advance. All right, Amber, we're coming up to the end of the hour, but we're not going to go anywhere before we get to your Rad or Fad.
Yes. Okay. So for this week's Rad or Fad, we have a gadget, and this gadget is called ePad Femme. I found it on Shiny Shiny. There was also an article on Mashable about it, but basically it is a tablet made for women. And the idea behind this is it is female friendly from the color to the shape, and it looks like they haven't sold many units. Based on this article, they've sold about 7,000 of these gadgets so far, but I don't know. I thought I would bring this up to you, Sarah, and actually I'm probably going to go on a rant about this, but I was watching the Samsung Galaxy S4 launch last night, and I was thinking about women and gadgets. And did you watch that launch?
Well, I've seen the worst of it.
Okay.
Yeah. So yes, I'm familiar. It was weird.
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of Samsung. I love the Galaxy line. But one thing I thought, especially with the women in the presentation, like I felt like I was in, 1965 maybe, as far as all the women only caring about being able to, not touch the phone with their nails and doing yoga, losing weight, counting calories. None of them really focused on business. It was just a very, very weird experience for me. So this is kind of the way that the ePad Femme makes me feel in the sense that, they're promoting it as a device where you can do yoga, you have yoga apps, grocery shopping, weight loss, and cooking. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't know. Most of my friends aren't like this, Sarah. I mean, most of my friends are business women and they care about different things. And so this was my rant for the show. And I think this is a big fat fad. And I hope that at some point, especially with technology and gadgets, we'll come to the point where we realize, women are, many of them that I know are in business and we are more serious than, just kind of, being frivolous with things and having things all in pink. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think, and we've seen this with smartphones in the past, even feature phones, really. It's like every once in a while there's a phone that's like, it's designed for women because it's pink. Or it's designed for women because look how slim it is, it fits in your purse. Or it's designed for women because it has all these preloaded apps that women like. This whole femme thing, and by the way, femme, that's just, I don't like the way it sounds at all. And it's like, it's designed to be comfortable for us because, I don't know, tablets are really hard. Okay, so I'm already like, I don't like it. But then when you look at the apps that are offered up, Amber, like you said, cooking, yoga, weight loss, all things that, that's all women do, right? Beauty. I like all of those things. Well, yes, it's true. I like being beautiful. I like losing weight. I wish I did more yoga. I certainly like cooking. But it's like, but that's not what that's not what defines me. That's what I might choose to load onto my tablet, along with all sorts of other stuff that isn't necessarily traditional woman kind of thing. And it's very offensive to think that somehow this whole tablet revolution is too difficult for women to get on board with. So we need our own tablet, which quite frankly looks like every other tablet I've ever seen.
Yes.
It's a complete iPad ripoff. So like, what is the deal?
I know. I mean, obviously they're thinking that this is just an easy marketing push. That people will love this idea of a tablet for women. But let's face it, I think that's one thing that Apple had done well really out of the gate with some of their early tablet, like the iPad and the iPad mini, is that, they appeal to anyone and they're very well designed. And I don't think we necessarily need a whole new design to really fit into a female friendly category. So not a big fan of this. I think this is a bit of a fad. I do, I get it. I mean, they're probably thinking that this is just a great opportunity, but I think it kind of falls flat. And I don't know. I'm not a huge fan.
No, yeah, it's fat all the way for me too. And really, it's like, okay, we've made light of, to kind of just turn the tables a little bit. We've made light of Pinterests for men. There have been a few that have been spawned out because, of course, Pinterest is known as kind of a women's site. The thing is that we know that Pinterest is not just used by women. However, there are statistics that show that predominantly females are using Pinterest. Okay, that's fine. But there aren't the same sorts of studies that show that for tablets. I mean, I do a show that's dedicated to a tablet, and I don't even think, there are all sorts of women that are watching the show and love their iPads, and that's just, the whole thing's crazy. We don't need a whole tablet for women thing. No. And it looked bad too. The UI looked bad. So,
yes.
Hey, women noticed that. We're not going to buy the Femme.
Yeah, not a big fan.
Actually, if you have bought the Femme and you love it, please do let us know, because I don't want to speak for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, there are things that I like. Like when there are headphones and they're designed in different colors, I appreciate that. But I don't think that we need to go as far as to design an entire tablet in that vein. So not a huge fan. I don't like the name like you, Sarah.
No, and they're probably not going to sell more than 7,000 units, Amber. That's probably, this was the proof of concept that didn't really prove anything. All right, well, now that we've ranted, Amber, I hope you feel a little bit better. I do. I'm ready to slide into my weekend feeling like woman power. We're just like men. We can do it all, whether it's Samsung or a Femme tablet, Don't put us in a corner.
Yeah. Don't put us in a corner.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you, Sarah. But we'll have lots more. And if you have a suggestion for Rad or Fad, I always find fun stuff. I do rely on Shiny Shiny a lot because they always have interesting articles. But if you have an idea for Rad or Fad, we're not opposed to using that. So let us know and send us an email or a tweet or whatever works.
Absolutely. All right, well, that is it for this episode of The Social Hour. It's been a fun hour. Remember, we're live on Fridays, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. But if you can't watch us live, our website is twit.tv/TSH. You can catch up with us there. Of course, you can find our show on iTunes, and we're all over the place. Amber and we're social people, and we like it that way. Until next week, I'm Sarah Lane.
And I'm Amber MacArthur, and we'll see you soon.